What's up guys, Eric from B-Side. Today I have a very new exciting product I want to introduce you to guys. It's the front camera interface for all the new Toyota vehicles. This covers from 2018 all the way to the current 2020 models, including this 2020 Toyota Tundra. And this new front camera adapter is going to do exactly what our previous front camera interface did, which is the ability to add a front camera to your factory screen on the factory Toyota vehicles, and everything's going to work seamlessly using very easy to mount button. But let's not waste any more time and get started. So this is what you'll receive inside the kit, and let me go over it with you. So here is the CS module. This is very similar to the previous kits. It's actually the same exact one. This is the brain of everything that'll control between the front cam, the backup camera, and it'll control the output. And then this is the special wiring harness that comes with this kit. And it's kind of different than the other one. It's not going to be a simple just plug out, plug in. But instead, the new type of Toyota, it's going to come with these types of connectors where there's actually 3 rows of these. And they're interchangeable. And there's 2 connectors that are exactly the same. So you have to be very careful when you're putting this together, because you can actually put it in incorrectly, which will potentially short your radio. So if you mess up on this portion, you can actually damage your radio. So be very, very careful on that, and make sure you go through the instructions many times before attempting this installation. These are the 2 main connectors. They're going to connect to the radio. And then just to make sure there's no confusion or mistakes, we have labeled it. It's in Japanese right now. Hopefully we'll have it translated before it gets shipped out to you. But just in case it doesn't, one of them says A and one of them says B. So just know that one is cable A, one's cable B, and the instruction is going to tell you exactly how to connect both of these cable A and B, and also this loose connector that's a part of a full connector that we're going to be using. And at the same time, on this harness, you'll notice that there's 2 RCA cables. One's going to be for your backup camera signal that's coming in, and one is going to be for your output. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure which is which because it's not labeled. But I will go over that with you in the vehicle once we test it. And out of these, one of them is going to connect to the backup camera, and then also the output over here. And then we also have here the switch that's going to come with the kit. This is a teardrop switch, a very small switch, and it has a double-sided tape in the back. And you'll have the ability to mount it wherever you want. It's very flexible mounting location because this switch is pretty small. And we decided to go with this route instead of using the factory look switch, because the new Toyotas, they changed the switch size, so the switch blank slots will no longer fit the type of switches that we used to provide, so that we went ahead and changed it to this. And of course the other end of this over here will connect to this part like this. Okay, and then from the main harness here, you'll find this connector. It'll connect here. And once again, one of these will connect to the output, and the other one will connect to the backup camera. And all these other parts here will connect to the vehicle. So the male side is going to connect to the radio, and the female side here will connect to the connector that was going into the radio from the car side. I'm going to connect it in here. Same for this one. Okay, so that is how this harness is all connected. And of course, we need a front camera. And the front camera we're going to be using today is our B-Cam 11A. And of course that comes with this camera with some harnesses. And how this is connected is you'll use this connector here, connects easily. And then the RCA will connect to the front cam, just like that. And then the red wire, go ahead and connect to the power accessory. And the black wire is just going to be for ground. Okay, now that I went over the contents, go ahead and go inside the vehicle and get started on the installation. All right guys, now that we're in the vehicle, let's get started on the dismantling process. The tools you're gonna need is a panel removal tool. You're gonna need a 10mm socket with a wrench, of course. If you have an extension, that'll be helpful. I'm gonna be using a power tool. And then maybe a Phillips screwdriver, we'll find out. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this shift knob. Just simply turn it counterclockwise. Okay, and then the second step is we're going to bring this up right over here. If you have a tray like this, go ahead and remove it. And we are going to remove this panel piece over here that surrounds the shift knob. So grab a hold of your panel removal tool, wedge it between the little space over here. It's just being held by clips. So just gently just move it up. It should pop up. Okay, there you go. All right, so you have this off over here. Just go ahead and set it aside. And then next, you're going to use a Phillips screwdriver and then remove that Phillips screw right there. And then this big piece over here, this big trim is ready to come off. I'm just going to go ahead and just grab it over here and just firmly pull up. Okay, just like that. You can just work your way around. And you can also use assistance of a panel removal tool. Okay, and then just carefully move it out. And next step, you're going to try to grab with the panel removal tool the space right between this outer trim and the plastic piece behind it. So if you shove it in too deep, it's not going to come off. So make sure you just barely put it in there and then just pull it out. All right, I went ahead and grabbed a different panel removal tool. This one, the angle is a little bit more aggressive than the other one, so it kind of helps. All right. Okay, there it is. Okay, just go ahead and gently pull it out. And once you have this out, you'll notice that depending on what options you have, you'll have these connectors. Just disconnect them. Make sure you don't forget to reconnect everything when you're reinstalling this part. Okay, next step, we're gonna just remove this climate control piece. This is also just being held by a clip, so just stick your hand back here and just firmly just grab it and pull it towards you. Okay, just like that. Behind it, there's one connector. Remove it, put it aside. All right, so once we get to this step, if you put your head down, you'll find that there's 4 10mm bolts that's holding this radio in place. So go ahead and use your 10mm socket with an extension just so you could reach all the way in there. And then go ahead and remove them. Having a magnetic tip does help a lot with this. It's easier to fish the 10mm bolt out after you loosen it up. So after you have that, go ahead and get a thick towel, something like this. Just set it down here, and then just, if you want, you could go ahead and wrap it like this. And we're gonna pull the radio, we're gonna set it on this, and just be very careful that the brackets behind this does not scratch up your interior, okay? So be very careful. Okay. These brackets over here, these are the parts you have to be very, very careful, okay? For your installation, it's not necessary to remove all the connectors, but for the sake of this installation, just so it's easier to show you what's going on, I'm gonna go ahead and just remove everything, and I'm gonna show you on the bench how everything is connected. And whenever you pull these connectors out, make sure you press down at the release tab and pull on the connector itself. Never pull on the wire, because you might dislodge the wire, and if you dislodge the wire from the connector, it's gonna be a very painful fix. I'm not sure if there's going to be a easy way to fix it, so just keep that in mind. All right, so I removed everything just for the sake of this video. Let's go ahead and take this to the bench and let's continue our installation. All right guys, as you can see here, this is the back of the radio. These two are the connectors that I'm going to be focusing on. This is a 28-pin connector, this is a 30-pin connector, and this is another 28-pin connector, okay? Make sure you do not confuse this 28-pin connector with this one, okay? So this 28-pin connector you see all the way onto the right side is something that you ignore, okay? Don't mess with that, okay? Because if you force things enough, you can actually end up switching things around and you can potentially short the radio. We really don't want to do that, okay? So 28-pin connector and 30-pin connectors, these two that we're focusing on. And for the 28-pin connector, we are going to be using the cable A, okay? It's in Japanese, but you can read the letter A. And on one side of it, the male side of this, okay, you'll see that there's only the bottom two half of the connector. And we are going to separate the factory connector top part, put it in here, and then we're going to connect it in here like that, okay? Snap it in. And how you separate these, I'm going to show you how to separate this. Same way how we separate this in the factory one, because these are factory constructed connectors. If you look very carefully, there's a little opening between these connector, and using a very thin flathead, or you could use something thin like this, just insert in here and you can gently just pop it open like this, okay? But for the installation purpose, you will not be separating this cable A part. You will only be separating the factory side on the top, and I'll show you that later. And connect it here and connect it over there, okay? And what was connected in here is going to connect into the female side of this, okay? So you are actually going to pop open this piece over here. It's covered by this black shield or this casing. And this part is super delicate, so be very, very careful. So every single pin you see over here, you can easily bend. So make sure you're very careful when you're attaching this. The other side is gonna just go right in here, okay? The factory connector that was in here is just gonna connect in here. And then after you have that connected, you are going to carefully put this cover back on to protect it. All right, so that is how the cable A is going to connect. And then going to this 30 pin connector over here, you're gonna first unplug it, and using this like a little small flathead or something thin like this, you are going to separate it once again. And when you separate it this time, you are going to separate the lower part of the car's 30 pin connector, okay? So you're gonna see 3 rows, you're gonna disconnect the lower part, and then you are going to use this dummy piece over here, and we are going to connect this on the lower part of the 30 pin connector. It's gonna snap in place. And after you do that, you are going to grab the car side, okay, with the dummy side that's connected to this. Dummy plus lower part of the 30 pin connector. Okay, we're gonna connect it, and we are going to connect that to inside here, just as I showed you earlier. And then you are going to connect this, and then the upper middle part of the factory 30 pin connector, and connect it. And then that part is going to connect inside here. And then of course, all the other connectors are going to be connected in place already, unless you have disconnected it. And then that will finish the connection portion of this harness. So let's go back into the car and let's go ahead and do what I just explained. All right guys, so we're back in the vehicle. I went ahead and put all the connectors back. This is how it's gonna look when you pull out your radio. And once again, the 2 connectors we are going to focus on is this 28 pin and this 30 pin, okay? Ignore the black one, okay? It's just these 2 right here. Okay, I'm gonna start off with the 28 pin. So let's go ahead and unplug this. Okay, so how you unplug it, just press down on the tab, and then just make sure you pull on the connector, okay? All right, just so I have more room to work with, I'm going to move this. Okay, just gonna move it up here for a moment. Use either a really thin flathead screwdriver, you could use something like this to just press in here, and then you can separate the upper connector like that, okay? And then once you do that, grab your cable A right here. Okay, we are going to take this cover off. All right, and once again, this part is very delicate, so make sure you're very careful when you're putting this back in. All right, and then match the holes, okay? And then just gently push it in very carefully. Doesn't require any force at all, like 0 force. Just very slowly, just push it in. And once you have that, grab the case and let's cover this up. Okay, just like that. All right, and this will secure it in place. And then the other end over here, we are going to connect this to here. Just like that, snaps it in place very easily. Okay, and just to keep this clean, I'm going to remove this cable A labeling paper, and then we are going to connect it back in here, okay? Then we'll just plug it in here, like that. All right, and then next we are going to work on the 30 pin connector right next to it. If you want some more room to work with, you could pull these 3 connectors off right above it. Okay, just pop it out like this. All right, so here's our 30-pin connector, and once again, just use this tool over here. We're gonna break it apart right here. Okay, we're gonna separate the bottom piece. And once we separate that, we're gonna use a dummy connector. We are going to connect it on top of this bottom piece over here. Just snap right in place, just like that. Okay, and then now we are going to grab our cable B. Let me remove this tag. All right, and then the male side of this cable B is going to connect into here. Okay, it's going to snap in place. And then the female side over here, we are going to remove this casing. Okay, there's a little tabs that's holding it in place. And once again, make sure you're very careful. It's very delicate. And we are going to match the pins and then slowly just push it in. Okay, there it is. And then we are going to put this little cover back on. Just like that. Snap it in place. And then this piece, we are going to connect it back into the factory radio. All right. There's a little bit of strain back here, so if you like, you can remove some of the factory electric tape over here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do that just so it gives some pressure off. Okay, if you want, you can always retape it yourself if you decide to put everything back in stock and you want to make it look like nothing was ever installed. You can always just tape this back. Might be better so that it doesn't give off any unnecessary pressure or pull. All right, so everything's connected. I kind of organized the wire a bit. I plugged these guys back in here. So now what we have left are these 2 RCA cables that's coming out of these harnesses. And one of them is gonna go into the backup cam and the other one's gonna go into the output. I'm still not sure which is which because this one is a sample and it wasn't labeled. But I will soon find out when we test this. So I'll go ahead and just connect it like this for now. And then on the other side, we also have the connector for our button over here, okay? And then we have the connector for, okay, this piece right here. Just like that, okay? That's coming from the harness. So now all we have left is to mount the front camera and then fish the wire all the way through and connect it over here. On top of that, we have to remember to ground the front camera wire and also power the front camera wire on power accessory. So let's go ahead and continue. All right, now that we got the harness in place and our adapter connected, and we're gonna go ahead and connect the front camera, and Shin, he's the master in doing that, so he's gonna go ahead and assist us in installing the front camera side of it. So we're in front of the vehicle right now. He's holding onto the BCam 11 BeatSonic front camera. This is a fisheye. It covers a wide range, and this is the one we recommend you guys will use. So first thing, we're gonna open the hood, and then once it's open, Shin is going to remove this panel over here so he has more room to work with, and he's going to find the perfect angle and the perfect way to mount the front camera from the back by fabricating a custom bracket. All right, so this is the more difficult way to install it. There's an easier way to install it. If you want, you could get a generic front camera and just wedge it between the grill and just mount it from the back. But he wants to make it look factory, and of course he's available to install in Southern California if you guys want to, and he is our official installation partner as well. So if you need anything installed, just make sure you come over here at ACC USA and just talk to Shin. Okay, so let's go ahead and just continue. And Shin's gonna show us how to mount the front camera using his custom bracket. Okay, so we went ahead and loosened the bolts on the top side of this grill, but it seems like there's more bolts that needs to be removed. So instead we are going to work on the firewall. So what we're gonna do is use a special piercing tool so that we could pierce through the firewall on the rubber grommet. And that's where we're going to be routing the cables and the wires from the front camera to inside the vehicle. For the Tundra, because it's a bigger vehicle, we need longer cable. We are going to be extending both the power and the ground wire on the harness itself. And then we will continue on routing the wires from the front side of the vehicle to the cabin so that we could connect it to the interface. Alright, so we successfully routed the wire through the firewall, through the rubber grommet, and then we just removed that one bolt on the bottom to mount the bracket. So this bracket you see here was custom made by Shin, and he made this by measuring the distance from the mounting location of this bracket to the mounting location of the front camera to make sure it gets that right angle and also that correct position. Alright guys, well, while Shin's preparing the mounting of the front camera, I went ahead and finished completing the connections for this module. So let me go ahead and walk you through it. So I did some testing and I found out the one that's L-shaped is the backup camera. The straight one is the output over here. It could potentially change, so if it doesn't work right, make sure you swap them, or they should be labeled by the time you guys get it. And then I also routed the front camera RCA cable all the way through the firewall, and then behind the radio I plugged it in over here. We have the switch over here, which I routed also to this side over here. I went through behind the radio all the way back down, and then it's over there ready to be mounted. And then I also connected my main harness over here and so forth. There's also two wires that was routed from the front camera all the way to this radio area, which is the power accessory wire. This is to power the front camera, and also the ground wire. And for the ground wire, we added a ring terminal to it, and then we grounded it to the side of this radio's bracket. And then for the power wire over here, we went ahead and we tapped it onto the power accessory wire that is powering up the CS module. Okay, so the CS module, if you look over here, it's labeled, and then ACC is the ACC power, it's the red wire, and you go all the way, you follow it through, grab the red wire over here as power accessory, and we connected that to the front camera power using the pulse C-tap. Most likely we will also include this in the kit, so you could just put in here. How this works is you screw one end with the wire, and the other end you could go ahead and tap it. It's pretty self-explanatory. You should be able to figure this out. We grab that end, and then many times you guys would also ask how to route these wires to this area. So what we used is just some flexible cabling. This is actually an airline that Shin uses for his air suspension installation. You can also use a clothes hanger. I like using a clothes hanger. All you have to do is first go over here, go to the back of the radio here, and then there's some opening, okay? And then just push it through. Just push it through, push it through, push it through. Stick your other hand down here, and then you'll be able to grab it like this, okay? And once you get it on the other side over here, just grab some tape. And then these wires are going to be hanging down there because we pushed it through the firewall. We taped it around this piece. Okay, it could be a clothes hanger. Most likely it will be a clothes hanger, like a wired one. Taped it around, and after you taped it around, go ahead and just carefully just move it up like this. And then your wires will come through. Untape it, and then you can go ahead and make the necessary connections. So that's how we routed the cabling. Everything is on here in place, and now we're just gonna wait until Shin mounts the front camera for the final test, and then we're gonna put radio and everything back in. So in the meantime, while we wait, let's go ahead and clean up the wires a bit. I'm gonna put this behind the radio, and we're gonna just mount this over here. Went ahead and mounted the front camera in a very good location where you could barely see the end of the front bumper, so that when you're parking this Tundra, you'll know exactly when to stop and before you hit anything. And now he is routing the wires and just cleaning it up. As you can see, That's the bracket right here. And then this is the wire for the front camera. And as he is routing this wire, he is carefully zip tying it in strategic locations to keep it very clean and factory-like. So here it is coming over here, and he's using some wire loom over here to protect it from heat, which is not necessary, but Shin likes to go through that extra step to make sure everything is very clean looking and very professional. So he's gonna go ahead and work on this. Okay, so while Shin's routing the wire, let me just go ahead and show you. We went ahead and tested it and just see how it works. Here's a button, press it once, and then there it is. That's how the front camera looks. Press it another time, the backup camera will show, and then one more is back to its factory screen. So everything's working as it is. So we are now ready to mount this radio back on, and let's put everything back in place. And then next step is we're going to find a good location to mount this button. And then we are also going to be cleaning up some wires down here. After that, we are finished. So let me go ahead and continue. I'm gonna go ahead and mount everything and go turn off the vehicle. And basically we are going to reverse our installation process. All right, so now we just wait for Shin, clean up these wires, and then we're done. All right, guys, so we finished installing it. We cleaned up all the wires, and we had some wires down here. We tucked it in. We used some zip ties to secure it because you don't want it to fall down while we were driving. So we did all that. Everything looks pretty good. And we also mounted the switch right here, okay? So it's easily accessible. You just have to put your finger down there and just push it. And let me go ahead and show you how everything works. So let me go ahead and turn on the vehicle. Okay, so your vehicle, everything's gonna work as normal. There's gonna be nothing different about it. You're not gonna lose any factory functions. Your reverse camera is gonna work like how it always worked. But in addition, we have this button over here where if you push it once, the front camera displays. Push it another time, the rear camera displays. Push it the third time, and then it will go back to your home screen. So let me go ahead and do a quick demo. So here we go. Push it once, there's a front camera. There's Shin over there taking some photos. And then as a default, there's a timer on it. If you want to change the timer to no timer or any other time that you prefer, you can go ahead and change that. Just refer to your instructions. They'll tell you how to get into the setup mode and change it. That's it. You press it again. There's your backup camera. And both the front camera and the rear camera, you can display while the vehicle is driving. So even while the vehicle is driving, you press this button once. The front camera is going to show. You press it again while the vehicle is driving, and then you can also show the backup camera like that, okay? And you press it the third time, and it goes back here. And to say that you put your vehicle into reverse, the backup camera is going to work like normally, just like that. You put it back, okay? Reverse. And if you press the button while your car's in reverse, okay, your front camera is going to show. Press it another time. It'll go back to the backup camera. Press it a third time. And then it'll go back to the front. Just go back between front and rear. This is while the car is in reverse. Put it back to park. And then there it is, the factory screen again. And once again, front cam and rear cam, and press. All right, guys. This front camera solution is perfect for someone with a big car like a Tundra, even a Tacoma, because a lot of time when you're driving, you cannot see what's right in front of the car bumper. And sometimes, you know, there could be animals or kids, or there could be some obstacles or something that's just laying there that you might not notice it's there. Or when you're parking your vehicle inside your garage, a lot of times it's difficult to see how far you're into it before you actually hit the front wall or whatever is stored in your garage. So you don't know the stopping point. But with the front camera, you know exactly where your bumper is, and you know exactly if there's any obstruction or if there's any sort of item that you need to watch out for, and it'll go ahead and it will display on the camera on the screen over here. So if you have any further questions, email us at info@bsonicUSA.com, or you can also leave a note below in their comment section. And if you need to get this installed in the Southern California area, I really recommend ACC USA Shin over here. He's been doing these type of installs for a very long time, and especially him having the skill of making custom brackets will ensure that you have the perfect mounting point on the front camera. All right, well, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. And also, if you guys could give us a like, will be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.